Alright, welcome to Unit 1, Geometry Basics. The first thing you should do in your notes is write down Unit 1, Geometry Basics. That's your title for this first unit. The first subunit is 1.1, which is points, lines, and rays. Alright, so I'm going to talk to you, which you're going to have to listen to, slow it down, rewind, pause, until you write down the important information. I'm also going to put stuff on the board, probably stuff you should be writing down. Alright, sometimes it'll be words, sometimes it'll be vocabulary, sometimes it'll be examples. Right, but I'm not going to write everything down, which means you're going to have to listen. Alright, so points. A point is a location. It doesn't exist in real life. It's something our mind uses to mark the spot. Right? It's points, lines, and rays are considered undefined terms because they don't exist in reality. They're not something you can grasp and hold up and be like, I've got the point. I mean, technically you can say that, but it's just the same, right? It's imaginary, but we use it to mark the spot, right? It has no size and it has no shape. We make a point solid and circular, but that doesn't mean it has to be, right? When you name your points, you use a capital letter, right? Capital. And when you name them, like if you want to tell me this is the one you're talking about, you would do lowercase points, capital A, point A. That's the one you're talking about. The lowercase p for point and the capital for the specific point is important so that you and everyone else know exactly which point you're talking about. No confusion, right? If you and your neighbor do it differently, how do you know if you're talking about the same location? If you just tell your friend, I'm going to McDonald's for dinner, first of all, why would you? But also, there are millions of McDonald's. There are like 6 within a like 10-mile radius of here. So you can't just say, I'm going to McDonald's. You have to say, I'm going to McDonald's on Ann Street. Or I'm going to McDonald's on, you know what I'm saying? You have to be more specific. This is being more specific. Right? The next one is a line. A line is any 2 points. Technically, a line is made up of millions of points, but you only need 2 to make a line. Right? 2 points make a line. A line extends past the 2 points, past, and ends in the arrows, because a line extends forever in both directions, to infinity. It needs the arrows to tell me that. Remember, we're being precise. Use precision. If this is a line that extends forever, you need to tell me with arrows that it extends forever. Alright, let's label these. Capital letters. When you want to name this, when you want to tell me this is the line you're talking about, there's several different ways you can do it. You need to know all of them so that you can recognize them when you see them. But you only need to use one of them. Alright? So, you could say XY with a line on top of it. This represents this. You could say line XY, lowercase, capitals. It's important. Follow the process. Or if the line actually has a little letter next to it like this, this means it has its own name. It's going to be lowercase. It's not going to be connected to a point. And it's going to be italicized. Right? It's going to be italicized. What is that called? Script. It's going to, which is slightly italicized. Right? And if you want to use this to name it, you would just say lowercase l line, lowercase r. Like I said, different ways to label it. You need to know them all so that you can recognize them when you see them. But you only need to choose one to use. Right? Side note about lines. There are collinear points on a line. Collinear points. Right? Collinear means they're on the same line. Look. Same points that are on the same line. So, X, point X, and point Y are collinear. They are on the same line. There are also non-collinear points. Right? And it is exactly what you think it is. If it is a non-collinear point, then it is a point not on the same line. A point that is not on the line. Alright, so point X and point C are non-collinear. They are non-collinear. All right, next up is rays. A ray is a point and then goes in one direction, right? So it has a starting point or an end point, whichever you want to consider it, and it only goes in one direction forever. Think of an arrow. It has an end, and it goes to the point of the arrow, right? So a ray, it has a million points, just like the line, but we only need the end point. Let's call this E for end point, because that's how my brain works. And then any other point on the ray. Let's call this F, G, H, I. You see how there's many points, right? So you need the end point to name it. Whatever the end point is. And then any other point on the line. I can use F or I or any other point on the line. Right? Let's use F. And then put an arrow on top. A ray telling me what direction the ray points. If the ray is going the other way, your arrow will point the other way. First letter, capital, should match your endpoint letter, capital. Ray. All right, and then we have planes. We have a plane, not like the kind that flies in the air. All right, a plane is a flat surface, right? To be a plane, it needs to have at least 3 points. Because if it only had two, it would be a line. To be considered a plane, it has to have at least 3 points. Think about it like a dimension or a level. This is a plane, 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 this is a plane. I could do that all day. Why would you want to listen to me do that all day? 3 points make a plane. Alright, so let's see if we can draw one. Three points. Let's call them K, M, P. 3 points make a plane. Like a line, sometimes it will have a name of its own. It will be a letter all by itself. Let's call this, what letter? Let's use C. It'll be a capital letter in one of the corners, and it won't have a point attached. This is the name of the actual plane. That means you can name it several different ways. You could say lowercase p plane, KPM, MKP, PMK, any variation of those 3 points. Any 3 points, because to be a plane it has to have 3 points. So let's say plane PMK, but you could also name it with this. Plane lowercase p, C, capital C. Point, no location, capital letter. Lowercase point, capital letter. Line, 2 points, minimum, millions in reality. The line extends past the points, arrows on the end. It can be labeled 3 different ways. A ray has an end and then an arrow that goes in one direction, only one direction. It can go in any direction, but it only goes in one direction. This is how you label it. And then a plane, which is like a surface, a flat surface, it needs to have at least 3 points and can be labeled that way. Or you can use its actual name and do it that way. Now, side note about planes, just like lines has a side point, planes have a side point. They have coplanar points, which mean same plane. Points that are on the same plane. These are on the same plane. So you could say point K and point P are coplanar. They are on the same plane. Now, suppose you have another plane, right? Suppose you have a line that runs through here. It runs through the middle of your flat surface. Imagine it goes BAM! Right there through the middle. If your point's up here, it's not on this plane. Right? So, if your point is up here, let's call this D, right? If your point's up here, it's on this line, but it's not on this plane, right? So, non-coplanar points right? So point P and point D are non-coplanar. They are are not on the same plane? What if I labeled this point? What if I labeled it Z? Could you tell me 2 points that are on the same plane? Could you tell me 2 points that are on the same plane with Z? These are on the same plane with Z. Or this one is on the same plane with Z. Because this is a whole new plane. And because D is on the same line with Z, they are collinear and coplanar. Don't worry, we'll practice. Alright, so read over it, think about it, ask questions if you have questions. Alright, if you catch me making a mistake during one of these videos, or even when I'm teaching live, call me out. I love it when I make mistakes. One, it proves that I was moving too fast. And two, it proves you were paying attention and that you were understanding the material. Right? If you call me out on a mistake, I'll give you a prize of some sort. Maybe an extra ticket for the raffle, or snacks if I have snacks, or a mechanical pencil, right? I know you guys love mechanical pencils. I have some to give away, right? Call me out if I make a mistake. But take a look at this, right? And the last part is intersecting lines. Intersection is the last part, right? Intersecting lines. Somebody's blowing up my phone. Somebody's house better be on fire. Alright, so if the lines intersect, two lines, the place where they intersect is a point. So lines intersect at a point. Right? Lines intersect at a point. But you also have intersecting planes. Plane, plane, intersect. This is how we create boxes, right? Intersecting planes. Let me see if I can draw this. Don't judge me, I'm not an artist. Judge. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Alright, so planes intersect at a line right here. This is where they are intersecting. Right? So you can imagine that there's this plane and that there's this plane, and they're intersecting right here, right? So planes intersect at a line. All right, look it over, ask questions. Make sure you took good notes. Watch it as many times as you need to. When you're ready, come get the practice sheet.